Okay, it is July 13th, 2024. We're in Manhattan, Kansas, interviewing Mr. Jim Sharp about his life and experiences during World War II. We'd like to invite him to sign our World War II memorial book, and also if he would autograph his book, Diary of a Combat Infantryman. That would be great. So if you could put today's date, and then see, you were B Company, right?
Mm-hmm.
B Company, 18th Regiment, right? First ID. I just drove by Fort Riley. I'd never been there by it before, and my dad was career Army. We were at Leavenworth a couple of times, but we never got out to Fort Riley.
Mm.
So you're close to to your home unit here.
Yeah, and I'm an old soldier, so they invite me out every once in a while. Some ceremony going on.
Okay.
Ask me to say a word or two.
That's great. So did you put, you got your name, the unit, and did you put today's date?
B Company, 18th Infantry Regiment, First ID.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you put today's date?
I put Jim Sharp, 7/12/24, Manhattan, Kansas.
Okay. Okay. Could you do the same thing on the book, please?
Oh, I didn't do all of that, but
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Okay. Yeah, so today's the 13th. Great. Great, thanks. Okay,
That's it.
you're all set. Okay, I'll get those out of your way. Great, thanks. Okay. Okay, if we could just start at the beginning, just tell me when you were born, where, something about your family and your early life.
I'm Jim Sharp, and I was born on April 25th, 1924, to Colonel Landinus Sharp, and we lived near White City, Kansas. I was a farm boy. I was running the farm and had a farm deferment and to raise food for the troops. And that lasted about 6 months, and my buddy's parents started getting notices that they were captured or wounded or dead. And of course that had an impact on me because all my buddies my age who graduated from high school were all gone to the service. So I went to the draft board and said I want to go.
You got rid of your agricultural deferment then.
I did.
Now, what about, you mentioned in your book about your uncle who fought in World War I. Can you tell us a little about him?
Well, yeah, my uncle Bert Sharp, Alvin Bert Sharp was his name. He was also in the infantry in World War I in France in 3 different battles. The Valley of St. Belou, Arnhem, I don't know, several different battles. And he got gassed, and it affected him the rest of his life. He didn't get any compensation for it at all. But, so I admired him. I was always getting to him at family reunions or dinners or anything to tell me about it. He never would speak about it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I thought, God, he's a hero. He ought to speak about it.
Yep.
Anyway, he wouldn't, and he never wrote anything down about it. Didn't have any kids. Went down to Arkansas in the hills and died down there.
Mm. Yeah, because my grandpa was in the 32nd Infantry Division at the Meuse-Argonne.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew he'd been in World War I, but I never talked to him about it.
Yeah.
So I feel, anyway. So did you like working on the farm, or was that not for you, or?
I liked working on the farm, And we had animals and cows and pigs and horses and a tractor. But after I would go out to the field and be working out there on the tractor all day long by myself, I got to thinking about, all my buddies going to the service. And they'd have big parties for them, and I thought war was going to be great to get in, and I'd go and get everything straightened out in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
But the machine gun cuts the limbs off of your head when you're trying to protect yourself behind a rock or someplace. You change your mind in a hurry about what you're capable of doing.
I'll bet. I'll bet. So you tell me about. Did you follow at all? I mean, I don't. If you're on a farm, I don't know. Did you have radio on the farm or not?
Yes, we did.
And did you get the paper or not?
We had a Council paper and Piccadilly Capital.
Wow. Did you ever go to those Saturday matinees that would have movie newsreels and serials and all? So the reason I'm asking you that is I wanted to see before the U.S. got into the war, so before Pearl Harbor, did you know what was going on in Europe and the Far East? Did you care what was going on in Europe and the Far East?
Yes, I did, because I loved history.
Oh, good answer. You're not just saying that for my benefit, right?
Especially at Piccadilly Capital.
Okay.
I would read about the Blitzkrieg. I'm talking about like 1939-40, when Hitler was marching across Europe.
Right.
I followed that pretty closely.
Okay.
And I even got to know, I felt like Hitler and Adolf Hess, Rudolf Hess, and Hermann Göring, and all those guys.
Right.
And so, yeah, I knew what was going on.
Did you think then, again, before we got into it, did you think eventually we would get into it?
I'm not sure. At the time, I was interested myself in getting into it afterwards. But as far as when I was a junior or senior in high school, I thought it would be pretty glorious to get into it.
Okay. And of course it didn't turn out to be that way at all. So what, you liked history, farming was okay, but I noticed you didn't go back to the farm right afterwards. How did you hear about Pearl Harbor? How, and when,
Well, yeah, that was December 7th, 1941.
Mm-hmm.
Our family was having Sunday dinner together. I had 2 brothers and 2 sisters, 5 of us. We were having a family lunch. We did every Sunday, a family dinner. And we were sitting at the kitchen table, as I recall, either kitchen or evening, I don't know. Anyway, they said there was an announcement, radio announcement to be made, that somebody come on and said, the Japs are bombing Pearl Harbor. And I think that's all they said at that time, so they went on, what's that going to do? Yeah. How is that going to disrupt it? How it's going to affect it?
Right.
And my one brother, there were 2 brothers, and one was in the Air Force and one was in the Navy.
So they were older than you?
They were all gone, yeah.
Okay.
So I was the only one left. And so that's, my God, there's all kinds of thousands of recruits just flooded in on selected service officers. Everybody was patriotic. We started having going away parties for my buddies, dances there in Council Grove, and parades. It was a glorious time. Everybody seemed to be happy that we were in a war, but I don't think they just wanted to support our country.
Yeah.
It wasn't they, I don't think. Because they were starting to receive notices their son had been killed or died or wounded.
Did you hear Roosevelt's speech the next day?
Yes, I did. Yeah, that had an impression on me.
It still does today. When you listen to that famous Day of Infamy section, especially. Yeah. So, but you continued on because you had the agricultural deferment. Now, when did you decide that, okay, I'm done with that.
Yeah.
I want I want to go.
move on.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that really had the most impact with me is neighbors receiving notice that their son had been killed, wounded, or captured. And they were my age. Maybe I was in high school with them. They went on. And the more I heard that, I said, oh, Lord, I better get off this tractor and get helping out my country.
Yeah.
Everybody was patriotic then, not like now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I told my dad, he was a businessman in Harrington, he couldn't do it. He was farming in the business. He was a farm implement dealer. And anyway, I told him I thought I would like to go to the service. And he said, well, you know, he was the brother of Uncle Bert. And he said, well, if you go, we're going to have a farm sale and get rid of all these cattle and implements, which we did. And then I went off to the service.
Okay. Now, did you have a preference? So you volunteered. You
Yeah.
weren't drafted because you had the deferment. What was your preference? Which branch of the service would you prefer?
When I went to Fort Leavenworth, the rumor was, and there was rumors all around you. You just had to tell them what service you were.
Okay.
You wanted to go in, and you get your choice. Well, you know, at home, your mom and dad tries to do that. Mommy and Daddy aren't with us anymore. But I took that idea to the door when they had this captain here, one for the Navy and one for the Army. I said, my brother's in the Navy and he likes it. He really likes it. So I'll go tell him I want to be in the Navy, which I did. And I told this officer I'd like to go to the Navy, and he said, "What do you want to go to the Navy?" And I said, "Well, my brother's in the Navy, and he really likes it, so that's my choice." He said, "You go through that door right there, soldiers. You're going to be in the United States Army. We really need good men like you." And I did. So I was sent to Army Infantry School.
Okay. And so from Leavenworth, where did you go?
From Fort Leavenworth, I went to Fort Benning, Alabama, which is the U.S. Parachute School.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned that you thought you might want to join the paratroopers. So
Well,
how did that work out?
Anyway, well, I'm still here today, and if I'd went the other way, which I'm going to tell about, I might not be here. But anyway, 13 weeks infantry training. He said, "You guys now are going to win the war. Go in there and win the war. We all go home." Well, that same night, they announced that they wanted paratroopers. And two of my buddies and I thought, the paratroopers come down there to a theater, where if you're interested, you went to the theater to learn about it. And these three paratroopers from Fort Benning come over there, and I got their heads slick clad, parachute symbols, and boots, and all this. And we guys, all three of us, Lewis Roderick and Nolan Richardson, and I said, "Boy, this is for us, you know."
Mm-hmm.
Well, we went over there, and as soon as we went in on a bus. There was others besides those three. We went on a bus, and those old-time paratroopers sitting around there in front of their barracks said, "You'll be sorry."
Yeah.
Anyway, we went in there and went through physical, and I flunked the physical. Nolan and Lewis, they repassed it. And the doctor said, when I flunked it, I was wanting to go. And I hurt this arch of my foot when I played football at White City High School. And it bothers me if I get too much weight on it. And he asked me all these questions, and he said, "You have a bad arch in your foot. you're ready coming down from the sky with 100 to 115 pounds on you. You're gonna hit the ground pretty hard. And you have a good possibility of damaging that horse.
Mm-hmm.
After, 2 or 3 jumps, and you might jump in 50 times. Well, anyway, he says, I'm gonna red line you unless you tell me that you wanna insist to go. And I said, well, it's gonna damage my health. I hated to do it because my buddies were already,
Yeah.
anyway, I flunked it. And after that, I was there in red tape for 10 days before it got shipped out. And it might have saved my life to
Yeah.
getting over there that much sooner.
Yeah. So what happened to your two buddies? They went on to become
They went
paratroopers?
on to paratroops, yeah.
Did they survive the
They
war?
both survived the war. They were both injured, but both survived.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. So then you're back in the infantry, the regular infantry now.
Yeah.
So where did they send you after Benning?
I got a delay en route, and they said, you're going overseas.
Oh, okay.
And after I went home for 10 days, and then took the train to. I didn't get clear to Boston Harbor. I went to 2 or 3 places to get oriented and get
Right.
equipment.
Now, were you at that point in the 1st Infantry Division, or is that going to come later?
Later.
Okay.
When our front line, when we got to the front line, that's when we got.
Okay. So were you in a replacement depot at some point then?
Went through a replacement depot to Belgium, yeah.
Okay. Those I've heard all kinds of wonderful
Well-
stories about those places.
Yeah, I got educated.
So tell me about your trip across the Atlantic.
Well,
You had a section.
4,000 of us went up the gangplank on this boat called the Thomas S. Berry. It was an old Cuban airliner. And they jam-packed us 4,000 troops in there. But as we going up the gangplank, I think there was American Red Cross ladies were there and gave us a ditty bag. It's what a ditty bag is. It's just toothpaste and toothbrush, a pencil, and notebook, gum and candy. And I thought, I don't have any use for all this stuff. I thought about throwing it away, except I went in there, and where bunks were crowded, 5 high, you couldn't hardly move. And I got in there and started emptying that ditty bag. There was a pencil and a notebook. Well, I think maybe you're right. What happened the last week to me, this paratroop deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And then just on the boat, we were on there for 10 days.
And were you in convoy, right?
Yeah, 4 ship. And then, so, since it was crowded and I was seasick 2 or 3 days, I started writing a little bit of that book every day. And well, I just kept doing that and went through. But I didn't do it every day because you couldn't at the front line.
Sure.
But anyway, it ended up in a book.
Yeah.
Combat.
No, I mean I know there are regulations against diaries and photos and all this.
Yeah.
But some of the most interesting interviews I've done with the guys who broke the rules.
Yeah.
Who kept, in fact, diaries or took photos
Yeah.
and then So, because you can go through and when I'm reading your book, you can give the specific names of places and so on, which a lot of guys, of course, can't recall from memory. It's just one big blur.
Yeah.
So that's real. I mean, from a history point of view,
Yeah.
it was really good that you did that.
Yeah, I was glad I did after I didn't mess with it
Right.
for 40
Yeah.
years.
Now, did you tend to write this, write in it when you wrote in it, and the other guys didn't know about it, or they knew about it and didn't say anything?
Well, there's a camaraderie among first-line combat troops. You're all buddies. You
Yeah.
might lose your ninth bar tonight, or
Right.
who knows.
yeah.
So nobody squealed or anything like that.
Okay,
We all knew the rules,
yeah,
and that was you're not supposed to do that.
right, right.
But we also knew that nobody's coming up there in combat or tell come to your foxhole and say, well, you're
Right,
supposed to be doing that. So
right,
I kept doing it and knowing. But I knew that if somebody captured me or I got killed or they found that book, I was aware that I should not be divulging any secrets,
right,
which I don't think I did.
right. Now, when you would write this, and you said you couldn't write it every day, but when you could, did you date the entries, or did you just do how did you do
No,
it?
because I didn't know what date it was.
Oh,
You didn't.
you mentioned that in the book, right?
Yeah. You just don't know what's going on. You just hope you live another
Right.
day. Get the hell out of there.
So that's right, I've forgotten. You mentioned that you might know when Sunday came around, right?
Yeah.
Because there was the chaplain came, yeah,
sometimes come to the
Right.
front if it was quiet.
right,
If it wasn't quiet, they didn't, nobody ever come up there.
right.
Except
So when you wrote your book, and you put general dates in there like April or May, I assume you went back after the war at some point and tried to match up certain places and battles through other historical documents, right? I mean, you'd say, okay, well, we're talking about Bonn, the fall of Bonn, and you may not have remembered exactly when that was, but you could, of course, look that up somewhere else. Morning reports or
Yeah.
something else, right?
That's right.
Did you ever use morning reports to?
No, I was just a private on the front line until my people ahead of me got killed.
Right,
And then you get promoted,
Right.
or wounded.
right,
But I sometimes heard discussions about morning reports. You know.
right, right,
We had
right.
some where they'd ask me, what happened to Nathan Robinson?
Yeah,
Oh, he was beside me and disappeared. I don't know what happened.
so especially if you were on, because I know you did a lot of patrols, and especially at
Oh,
night.
God, yeah.
So I assume you had to report, and that went into the morning reports the next day, or
That's
whatever.
right.
Okay,
And in a lot of cases, it identified the people who were on that patrol.
right, yeah,
I didn't often write all the guys down. I probably should have, because patrols are only 5 to 7 people.
right,
You don't need a whole army to go on night patrol to search for the enemy, you know. So if you're killed, well, you got to limit the numbers.
sure. So most of these patrols were just reconnaissance.
Yeah,
I mean, you weren't going, or snatching prisoners to
Yeah,
interrogate, that
that's
kind of
right,
thing.
yeah.
Okay. Or finding out, yeah, okay.
but some of that's pretty far-fetched. I mean, on the front line, you have a hell of a time if you're going to capture any prisoners.
I'll bet.
Unless they're wounded and you pick them up and bring them back.
Right, right,
Because they have security out there. In the foxhole, you have 2 guys in there, and you and one other, and you're alert at all times.
and the
Round
Germans,
the clock.
Germans did the same thing,
Yeah.
actually, yeah.
You weren't going to sneak up on anybody to capture any of these prisoners. Like
Right.
some of them think you did, but we didn't. The only one you did is those that are wounded or left behind or
Right,
something.
right. Well, I remember there was one account in here where you said you fell asleep once, and then that was it. You never did that again. Yeah. I can only imagine how tired you
Oh, my
are.
God.
In fact, this is a question I always ask, especially the infantry guys. I have 2 sets of questions. The first is, what wore you down the most? Was it, you were tired all the time, you were dirty all the time, or the food was crap? So how would you rank them in order, worst to best?
Well, it depended on what the mission was. If we had to, if we were changing positions in the line with someone else that were going to take a break,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how far you marched to get over there,
Yeah,
and when you had to battle through something to get there or not.
yeah,
What you'd done the previous day, whether you got any rest or any sleep.
right.
So tiredness was caused, well, there's mental tiredness too.
Yeah,
So get all wrapped up into this plain old. Sometimes you just couldn't hardly muster. But nobody was going to be left behind, and what are you going to do if you're the only one left?
Exactly. So it's a combination of physical and mental fatigue, and I assume the longer you're on the line and the more crap you see or do, the more worn out you're going to get.
And you're losing your buddies is hard on you too.
Yeah.
That's part of that aspect of it.
It's got to be. Now, which brings up another question, and that is when the replacements would come in, and there must have been a lot of them, right?
Oh, yeah.
The guys I've interviewed would say they'd go one of two ways. They'd say, we really didn't want to know the replacements because they were probably going to get killed soon. We didn't want to have some kind of emotional attachment with these guys. Other guys have said, oh no, we take them under our wings and sort of give them advice and all this kind of thing. What was your attitude about replacements? I mean,
Well,
you yourself had been a replacement.
Yeah. Everybody, most part, has been a replacement. It depended upon their knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
If they'd been through basic infantry school, they were pretty well schooled in what you did on patrol, or what you did when your guard time come in the foxhole. Repeat that question again.
Okay, so did your personal view, and maybe the view of some of the guys in your squad that you were close to,
Yeah.
how did they view replacements?
Well, and some of these guys come up there scared to death of what was going to happen. None of us knew what was going to happen. But a replacement was just a replacement. He was just a body that was going to be maybe your buddy, or maybe he wasn't going to be your buddy, depending on what happened. They sometimes we weren't up there just a day, and hell, they'd be hit or injured and gone.
Yeah.
And anyway.
So you would tend to be more detached emotionally from them,
Yeah.
just to save yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
You wanted them as buddies because you had to trust each other.
Yeah, right. But, yeah. So would you say then the lack of sleep was the worst thing for you?
Yeah, it was fatigue.
Okay.
And sometimes it was fatigue because of the marching situation, or some trouble you got in on a patrol.
Right.
Where you be surrounded or, pushed back. We didn't ever retreat. We said we didn't, but we would strategically withdraw.
Right, yes. I was going to say, tactical withdrawal a few miles to straighten out the line. Yeah. Okay. Now, the other thing, when you're under fire, and I noticed a number of guys you mentioned who were unfortunately killed by friendly fire, like Queener and so on.
Yeah.
But from the enemy's side, when they're attacking, did you guys in general, you specifically, but say again the guys in your squad that you would know the best, what was the most horrendous? Was it enemy artillery and mortars, snipers, machine gun fire, landmines, booby traps? And what was the thing that was the top of your mind that you felt potentially could do you the most damage?
Well, I would say that the treetop burst artillery fire. You can be in a foxhole down in there quite a while, but if it's from a treetop, there's thousands of pellets come out. And that's it. They use the screaming Mimi quite a bit psychologically.
Mm-hmm.
And damn things just for the last 10 seconds, it feels like it was ready to come down in the back of your shirt.
Yeah.
And that was mentally tough.
Yeah.
They did that for, they're at, right after we captured, we got across the Rhine, where they threw everything at us but the kitchen sink. And we were under bombardment in Foxhole for 23 hours or so.
Oh.
And if you got out, boy, you were a dead duck
Mm-hmm.
or seriously wounded.
Right.
And the medics, you know, you could shout, these wounded would shout for help. But boy, howdy, those medics, they were really brave, but dang, you're taking your life in hands when you get out to go help those guys.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
I don't remember your question, but
So in general, because of course the Germans had their medics with the big aprons and the crosses and everything. In general, when a medic from either side would go out and collect wounded, did the other side tend to, not fire on the medics? I mean, you might have artillery fire that kills one, but it wasn't intended for him, you see.
well, no one ever stopped fighting in the front line. I never was in a situation, or our outfit, I never heard of being in a situation where we stopped firing or they stopped firing.
Okay.
Now, there were cases I remember in Hurtgen, no, it was the Hurtgen or Ardennes, in the Ardennes. We were settled in it and set up foxholes at a crossroads out in the middle of the forest. It was just more of a trail. But anyway, we no more got our position set up in foxhole dug, and we hear this shouting at first in German. I didn't know what it was because I didn't know much German and needed my foxhole buddy. But you could tell they wanted help. And we contemplated, well, is this our guy or who? Is it German? But we...
And is it a trick? Is it a trick?
Well, yeah, that's what you think. And we weren't going to bite on it. It was night, or really dusk. And that happened all night long. This guy was calling for help. But that's what we thought it was, and that's what they told us later. Then the next morning we captured this cabin out in the middle of nowhere in the forest. And this was our CP, man post. And when we got out of our foxhole to go up there, report in, here was these German soldiers that had been captured. And one of them was this guy that had called for help. He was hurt. He was hurt badly. And they had him there trying to give him medication. And when we went in there, he saw us and we liked him. And that guy, a German soldier, thanked us, don't you, Shane, for helping him. Somebody helped get him in the cabin,
Mm-hmm.
for getting him up there and getting him help. He was helpless. He was I didn't go. I wasn't one of them to go get him. Some more people did.
Okay.
But he was in the foxhole and couldn't get out. And he just needed help. But he hollered all night long, but we didn't go.
Tell us a few of the incidents that stick in your mind about the Ardennes, about the Bulge. The things that you really will, the first thing that pops into your mind when you think of the Battle of the Bulge and your involvement. Can you tell us some of the incidents? I know you had a lot of close calls with tanks shooting at you and the white capes that you kept tripping over and all that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, my first impression was they took us in a barn. It was cold, bitterly cold, and snow and blowing like a blizzard. And they said, well, we're not going to take you folks up there. The German patrol's out, and there's no way to get there. We can get part way on a jeep, but then we're going to have to walk quite a while. But anyway, it was cold. God, it was cold. And here we were piling on this damn jeep. They were trying to take hot chow to the troops that were up there. And they had canisters on there that were warm sometime. But anyway, here we were piling on this jeep. There's 6 or 7 of us, for crying out loud. And you couldn't see, they didn't have the lights on. But this sergeant or somebody was in charge of getting us back up there. Said, you know, no, can't smoke, you can't talk.
Well, you didn't smoke anyway at that
No,
point.
not at that point, I didn't,
Yeah.
that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got up there. They said there's German patrols out. And you couldn't hardly see in front of you, so, but they got us up so close. And then it was too dangerous. You guys gotta go ahead on your own, get up there. So we got off this Jeep and yeah, you couldn't, I mean, the Ardennes, big trees in there and it was dark. So we had to line up and put your hand on the guy's shoulder ahead of you, and there was 5 or 6 of us, I guess. But anyway, we kind of got up there. We got up there and a German Sergeant Seeley said, you guys speak any German? None of us spoke German. He said, there's 5 words you need to know. And if you say these words to a German soldier that's trying to kill you, you better know what the hell you're saying and be under protection. Protect yourself. And he says, those Germans are, if you get them circled or get them in combat, you can shout, come see here, mit handy ho. Come here with your hands over your head. Well, I used that quite a bit, but it wasn't even, it was like when you're in group, close to a group in a house-to-house fighting or foxhole to foxhole, they had to be pretty close.
Yeah.
And if they had a gun, not many of them were going to surrender. So, but that's one thing they said we needed to know when we got up there. And of course, I've always remembered that because I didn't know what that meant. I mean, I knew what it meant, I guess, but I didn't know for sure how I was supposed to use it.
Right.
You know, when.
Was it ever effective for you?
Yeah. Oh, God, I captured 50 to 100.
Wow.
Not just me,
Right.
but
Your squad. Or
Yeah.
Your platoon or what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in the Bulge, and you mentioned all kinds of stories, and I don't, you don't need to repeat all of them, but there was one where you're running across the street and a tank takes a pot shot at you or something. Can you tell us about that?
that was in the Ardennes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. I was lucky to live through that. Jesus, I felt that damn shell go right by me and blew up. I don't know what it was over there, some other kind of a little building shack. But anyway,
So
that was,
how many close calls do you think that you know you had? Versus what you was very good that you said that because there were probably close calls you don't know about, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, I've had more close calls I didn't know about than I did. Actually, close calls where I thought I'd been dead and gone. Dozen or 15.
Wow. So did you think you were like a cat with 9 lives at some point? Did you ever get superstitious about
I
that?
don't know what I thought. I just knew what we were supposed to do, and Sergeant Gillis would give us the order when we'd do it.
Okay.
I wasn't thinking on that patrol, well, this is the last patrol I'd like to go on.
Right.
You know, you're just thinking of what you had to do, and how to make sure the terrain around you, we weren't thinking about getting killed.
Okay.
We weren't.
Yeah.
At that age, we thought we were not.
Right. Now, at any point in the war, did you or any of the guys closest to you, in your squad, sort of have this fatalistic attitude like, well, I'm probably already dead, so if I accept that, I can do my job and not have all of these, thoughts? Did you ever think that way?
Now, reword that again, I'm not sure.
Okay, so at any point during the war, did you sort of mentally tell yourself, I'm probably dead? In other words, I'm probably a walking dead man. And by thinking that, sort of clearing your mind of all the worries about being killed, did that help you then do your job better with that fatalistic approach of thinking, oh, I'm going to die anyhow, so I can't worry about it?
Well, I think I thought that I was never going to die.
Okay. Okay.
There was people that way,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew some of them, or was around them,
Uh-huh.
but I never did think
Okay.
that way.
Okay.
After the war, I did,
Okay.
and I thought, oh my God.
Well, you got time to think about it,
Yeah.
which is not good. I don't think about it.
That's exactly right. And that's when a lot of these guys, especially when you're going up there on patrol or something, and here's some of them just broke down. Some of them had been shot and went to the hospital, and they were put back on the line. And I remember one guy by the name of Dickerson, I think his name was. We were, I don't remember where we were in a Jeep or we were walking or what, but this guy, we were in the back of a truck. They were taking us where patrol was going to be launched. And I'd never been involved in anything like that, but this guy started shaking, just, shivering like that. I thought maybe it was just cold at first, but he wasn't. He'd been in combat before.
Mm.
And I said, well, I carried cough with him. He was really jittery coughing because he was so scared. And I tried to get a conversation with him, trying to decide, well, gee, this guy's scared to death. I don't think he better be on patrol. So I told the sergeant, and he said, well, everybody's scared. Everybody's scared. I'm just, well, we put him on the last man in the patrol, because everybody up front here better be experienced to know what's going on. You can't have somebody that's scared to death, and then firing starts and they run to the rear, or something.
Or worse, do something stupid to get the rest of you killed.
That's exactly right.
Well, so I suppose there's different levels of fear. There's the fear where you can control it, and then there's this uncontrollable, and you don't want an uncontrollable guy on the.
That's where he was.
Now, and most of these patrols were at night, right? So it's one
I'd
of.
say 50-50.
Okay. Okay. So did you fear the night patrols more than the day ones? I mean, what did you?
Yeah, night was worse.
Okay.
Because you'd hear all this firing and artillery around you, and sometimes all around you. And off in the distance, and sometimes right close, you'd hear machine gun fire and artillery fire. And their machine guns are better than ours.
Oh, the MG42, yeah.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
Our 50 caliber would go like tat 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 tat, and the Germans go.
Yeah.
That puts shivers down your spine.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Good Lord.
I'll bet. Well, tell me about using those camouflage things, because that was an interesting story where you're given the white
Oh yeah.
cape.
Well, good Lord. Yeah. That was pretty early in my arrival at the front lines. It was always snowy, blizzard conditions most of the time. But they passed those out and said, get them on. Everybody's going to be white so they can't see you. But anyway, and you were climbing on tanks and trying to cross barbed wire fences, and it was a big mess. But we did. We wore those capes, and it just, like we were on patrol this very first day, I think. And I was lead man on this patrol, and we rode across the barbed wire fence. You know what a barbed wire fence is. Fire wire. And the snow was 18 inches deep. And my God, you try to get through a barbed wire fence with those things hanging on you. You get caught up in the patrol is, and it took it 5 minutes almost to get through it. Old platoon sergeant, move the patrol along, let's go. And it took us, we were 7 or 9 men at that day. And, well, we went on patrol. Our mission was to go across, a quarter mile of open field. Over to the other side of that field was a bunch of trees. There was a vacancy in here. So that's where we went. And I kept thinking, my God, boy, we're out here in the middle of nowhere. If we get through in the damn, get wounded in this kind of weather, we're SOL.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, and I was leading them, and it seemed like these damn trees that we're going to, every time we tried to go, seemed like they were getting further away. Anyway, because we were so tired and going through that snow, 18 inches of snow, it was really tough. Fortunately, and as we got to be 100 yards, I said, hell, there's no Germans here, I don't think. I said it was machine fire. But anyway, we got closer and closer, and we got over there, and there were no Germans there. And that's what we report for Fuhrer. Our company commander or regimental thought maybe they were going to try to surround us, but there wasn't anything. So we had more trouble with the damn snow capes than we had with the Germans on that patrol.
So what did you eventually do to solve the problem of the snow capes that were too long?
Well, let's see. That's the day we got in battle with the German tank breaking through our lines. And I don't remember for sure. I know I had a cape on when they started shouting this German tank coming up the road. And there was panic, because they were firing the machine guns through here to make us keep our heads down. And we were down in that snow, and I had a cape on, and that's the last time I remember that I had that cape on. But what I did with it, I don't remember.
Okay. So you didn't keep it throughout?
No.
Okay.
I don't remember it later. After that day, we captured a town by the name of Hansfeld. And that's, we had ridden tanks into battle first.
How often did you do that? I was reading that you frequently would ride the tanks. Did you, when you did that, it got you where you needed to go probably faster than if you were on foot, but you're also on a high profile tank, so you felt more exposed, right? I mean, what was the advantage and disadvantage from your point of view of riding the tank?
Well, number one, I guess, there's 6 or 8 or 10 of you can get on there.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you can stay on after it starts moving and jagging, another question. And if it's at night, or even early morning, and they were shooting tracers, we were carrying jerry cans of gas on that tank.
Okay.
Good God. Anyway, we didn't blow up, but it was pretty scary going through the night. It's early morning we attacked. And here these damn tracers is going all over around you. We didn't get hit. There was one of our tanks that got hit and blew up, and I don't know what. I heard a lot of screaming. But I don't know how many others got knocked out. There's too many other things that detracted,
So what was the hardest part about riding the tank? Hanging on to it so you wouldn't fall off? Were you also trying to shoot when you were on the tank? I mean, what?
Yeah, you couldn't really control anything when you're riding a tank. Yeah, they're going along 50 or 20 miles an hour, and every bump's a bump. and
Right.
You gotta hang on first, and you're hanging on to a 5-gallon gas tank. Good Lord.
So did you have a choice in whether you could walk or ride the tank, or someone would say, get on the tank?
No, your choice. You get on this tank. You get
Okay.
on the tank. And
So did you feel yourself more exposed? I mean, would you have, if you had your choice, your personal choice, would you have preferred walking or riding into
Well,
battle? Not moving, just moving from A to B, but when you're in a fight, would you have preferred to be on the tank
thing
or
that
on?
happened is, I think I'd prefer, to answer your question, I guess I would prefer walking, because if the tank's moving, you're sitting duck, you can't shoot anybody. I mean, and as soon as you receive fire, you're walking anyway. You get off the tank,
Yeah.
and it starts, fire, and it starts. The problem is, when you get off the tank, you're the lead attack. Those tankers aren't gonna lead the way.
Right.
They want the infantry.
To clear out, yeah, the
Yeah,
obstacles.
to
Yeah,
lead the way.
yeah, yeah.
And the hell of it is, and this happened several times that I know of, and it could have easily happened to me, we would be leading, attack, and these tanks would be, behind us. They'd be helping us, but they were behind us, and they were trying to blow up the people in the foxholes flying back or whatever. But, they were dangerous to the enemy. Those machine guns were going, their tanks were moving. We got a lot of our boys were killed by our own people.
Yeah. Wasn't that what happened with Queener eventually?
That's what happened to Queener,
Yeah.
yeah. William Queener.
I mean, you have to ask yourself when you're, whoever the guy responsible for writing those horrible, those terrible letters home saying, oh, your son, blah, blah, blah. You wonder, you don't really want to tell them the truth.
No.
You don't want to say, hey, we accidentally killed your son.
Yeah.
So there must have been a lot of those letters where, the truth was bent a little bit, right?
That's right. They didn't ever tell them.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't do it, but I'm sure that they didn't give you all the details
Yeah.
about how your son died.
Yeah. So unless his buddy saw what happened and decided to go visit the family afterwards, yeah.
Well, now I'm sure that happened.
Yeah.
And the family usually, wants to know.
Of course.
I've
yeah.
had a lot of people ask me, and some of them I didn't even know, and I didn't know their dad or whoever he was
Right.
talking about.
Right.
But they still wouldn't want them to know
Yeah.
what happened.
Right. Now, when you, what was sort of, you mentioned this several times, and obviously it was important. With the food and the mail, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the quality of the food and the mail and everything. But you mentioned that every week you guys would get 10 packets of cigarettes and 10 candy bars. And early on, you didn't smoke. So can you tell us what you did with with those?
Yeah, I always took those candy bars and cigarettes too, even though I didn't smoke. My dad always preached us, boys, leave cigarettes and alcohol, drugs alone, and
Yeah.
get into trouble.
Yeah.
And that resonated with me several times because everybody was smoking up there, except me, in my close contact guys. I don't know where I picked it up, but it was one of those farmhouses maybe a city house, I don't know. I found this little box, tin box about that size, laying on a table. We were clearing up the territory. And I thought, damn, that's going to be waterproof for me. And I wasn't necessarily thinking about cigarettes, but just a waterproof container was helpful up there. And I took it. I stole it or whatever you do. And there's 10 packs of cigarettes I had. It fit perfectly in there. And I had guys in my outfit that smoked 2 and 3 packs a day because they were interred in a foxhole. You don't have anything else to do. So anyway, so I ate all my candy bars, but it was a cigarette starter. Everybody knows Jim Sharp had some cigarettes because he did. So I gave them away.
Well, that's why you're still here.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it, yeah. Well, along with genetics and luck and all these other things. Let's see. Oh yeah, tell us a little bit about when you saw your first buzz bomb and the first German jet and all of that. That was at the Bulge or on the way to the Bulge?
Well, there are two different stories here. I'll see if I can remember them, but I don't have to tell them. The buzz bombs. I was, I'd read about them, but now I was facing them. They were around where I was, and I think the first time I noticed those was when we were in this replacement area we had taken over, because there's 5 or 6 or 7 buildings there, and I think it was kind of a nunnery school, because these nuns were still there. And here we were 1,000, maybe not 1,000, several hundred American GIs. We were stationed there until we went up as a replacement. We were awful close to the front lines. And one time when we were, I don't know what was going on, but anyway, I heard this funny noise. And I looked up and here this damn looked like a little airplane, only a bit fatter. It was going along, put, just like my mom's Maytag washing machine. And that guy, I think if I'd had my gun and rifle ready, it was so dang close, I could have shot her down, but I know later I thought, oh no, hell, that was going to go fast, I couldn't have shoot. But anyway.
What would you want it to land on you anyway if you shot it down?
I mean, I thought it was so low it never would reach across the Channel in London.
Right.
But I didn't know anything about it. But that's the first one I saw.
Okay. You saw others later on, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we saw a lot of them just like that. They were usually a lot higher.
Now, what about the jet?
Well, really, one most interesting story, I think, was when I think we'd almost reached the Ruhr River, and it was flooded. We had a terrible time getting across there. But anyway, after we got across it, they set up perimeter defense, and everybody knew how close the next fossil was going to be and where they were, and all that. And but anyway, I was digging my foxhole with my buddy, and we heard these airplanes just roaring. And what was happening was this German jet had broken through, I think. I never heard of a jet before, but I figured out that's what this was. One ship. We had our B-24s or B, whatever our fighters were, I forget. They were in a circle. I'm going to shoot this German down before he went back to Germany. Well, I was amazed because that German jet was so much faster than our plane, and he escaped back to Germany, even though our guys were circling each one of them was shooting down our ship. It wasn't funny, but they didn't get him shot down.
Mm.
But that's one time when I realized, we weren't always superior in our weapons.
Well, the machine gun and the jet, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you saw your first, you mentioned it in the book, you saw your first dead German soldier near a village you were attacking, and I'm sure you saw a lot more later on as well as our dad.
Yeah.
What kind of an impact did that have on you? I mean, initially. Later on, you probably became numb to it, but what was your initial
Well,
reaction?
it was pretty chilling. And I'm supposed to be looking for the enemy out here, but I saw this guy draped over this barbed wire. He was dead. I couldn't take my eyes off of him. There was no way he's going to. I'm sure he was loose, just like he'd be dead. And I was on, I think we were on tanks then. But it's a chilling thought to see and be there what happened.
Now, did you think, wow, that could be me?
Yeah, well, yeah, all those kinds of thoughts go through your head.
Yeah. Now, later on, after you saw so much of this, did you think you became numb to it? Did you try to block it out? Was it part of a common day occurrence? Or did you never get used to it?
Well, you never got used to it. But there wasn't anything you could do. What are you going to do about it?
You can't do anything about it.
No. No. I thought about it. God damn, I thought when over at night we went up to the front lines, I thought, damn, is there any way to get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe head back the other way? Well, hell, up there, I didn't even know which way was where, which way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be useless. The enemy's all around you, whether it's the civilians or the soldiers. Nobody's going to help you.
Yeah. So I guess of all of the things, aside from, actually being shelled or whatever, so the most terrifying thing for you personally was going on those patrols, would you say?
Yeah, I believe that's right. Yeah.
I got the
Because
impression.
in battle, even in battle, you would think maybe that would be it.
Right.
But in battle, you're active. You're doing something. Whereas on patrols, you're just searching for the enemy and you don't know where they are, what bush they're around.
Right. And he'll have the first crack at you, not you at him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess but the problem was, for you, at least what I'm getting from your book, is the more patrols you went on, the more your senior NCOs or lieutenants or whatever thought, oh, he's really good, we're going to send him out again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in other words, it didn't pay to be good. You would be.
Well, after 4 or 5 of them, I thought, damn, it's not my turn to go on this. And I asked Charlie this because I was afraid to go on. Everybody's afraid to go on the patrols, my God. So I said to Sergeant Zelis, I said, damn, you putting me on all these patrols. Some of these guys haven't been on patrol at all. He said, you are dependable. You are dependable, you're experienced, you have common sense. Some of these guys don't have any of that.
Yeah.
That's why we got to have good men like you up here.
Yeah.
Makes you feel really good. But they didn't say anything, they still went on too many damn patrols.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah. No, never having done that, obviously, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes and thinking, yeah, you're walking across a field, a couple 100 yards wide or quarter mile or whatever it is, and you have no clue who's over there, looking or not looking. I mean, it's got to be just, it must play really, it's got to just do a thing with your mind, just really screw with your mind.
Well, it does. Then on top of that, you're supposed to be aware of what's going on all across and going over one of the field you're talking about. Every once in a while, I'd look over there and I think, damn, there's a German right there in a foxhole. He just got his head up to the foxhole. But it wouldn't. Yeah, you were so scared and sometimes you fictionalize it.
Sure. A tree stump or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine what's going through your mind. Now, you had a buddy that I think, okay, so Queener didn't make it. friendly fire, but you had a friend who I think did make it, James W. Bill Rogers.
Yeah.
So how early on did the two of you get together?
Well, I think it was, you moved to different positions when you lost a buddy, you know. And it depended on, and all of us had been trained on machine guns and BARs and hand grenades and bayonet fighting and all that. But you kind of made, I don't know, was it friendship or comradeship or what? Guys you felt more at home with as a buddy.
Yeah.
And he was one of those guys. He's from Kentucky. And we spent most of our time together as a BAR team,
Okay.
automatic rifle.
Right, yeah.
And damn, those are big. They're heavy, and you got all kinds of bandoliers, you know.
So one would carry the ammo, the other would fire. And would you trade off on that job?
Yeah, you did. You traded off. And it's tough when you're moving from position to position, marching across terrain, rough terrain, and had heavy weapon and the heavy ammunition you had to carry.
Now, when you're carrying, when your BAR team of two is carrying the BAR and the ammo, I assume you have some kind of, like a carbine or a pistol or some other, smaller arm that you can protect yourself with?
If we were on a BAR team, you had a smaller rifle, which was
That M1 carbine?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the other times you picked up whatever weapon you want off the battlefield.
Okay.
Submachine or
One of those grease guns or something?
Yeah. And toward the end of the war, in close order fighting in villages and towns, you didn't need a M1 to fire 150, 200 or 300. So we picked those things. Nobody's up there to control you. It's what you're going to use.
Right.
And they were all over the battlefield for wounded.
I'll bet, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
Did you ever use, with the BAR, I know it had a bipod. And I've talked to other BAR guys and they'd say, well, we threw them away because it was extra weight. Did you guys keep it, use it,
We
toss
did
it?
early on. We kept them, and those damn things are added to the weight. Yeah. And you didn't need any more weight up there. So yeah, in a lot of cases, and you could hold that thing up kind of like a rifle if you were laying prone on the ground, your elbow, and wasn't long. You got rid of it.
Okay. Now, did you ever, I know you got a lot of souvenirs, and we'll talk about that later.
Right.
You were the souvenir shop, right? With, I don't know how many dozens of pistols and binoculars and compasses and flags. We'll get to that in a minute, because that was a funny story. Did you guys, or not you personally, probably, you didn't talk about, but did you ever see anybody else, American troops, that might pick up enemy weapon and use it if theirs was malfunctioning or they'd lost it or anything like that?
I don't think I ever did.
Really? Okay. Well, what would they tend to pick up? Not the Mausers. Would they use those, or what would they?
Well, if you were really in battle that close, you didn't have time to think of or learn how to shoot another weapon. Okay. You knew how to shoot the machine gun or the BAR, whatever weapon, M1, whatever you had. So I never did even think, although I could have a lot, I never did think of picking up a German weapon and use it.
Okay.
They were all over the battlefield, but I never did. Maybe some people. And I don't know that I've ever seen any other American soldiers doing that, but could have been.
Okay. No, I'm just curious, because I know on the Russian front, the German troops really liked that one Soviet-made submachine gun with the round drum. They really liked using that. So I just wondered if we... And did you ever see the Germans using our equipment?
No.
Okay.
No, he'd been a dead duck in a hurry if we'd have seen been
Okay.
that close observer.
Okay, okay. So Rogers survives the war, right, as
Yes,
I
he
recall? Okay.
Bill
And-
Rogers.
And you got some other interesting incidents with him later on, and I think was it Alton or one of these towns, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there was. I don't remember what you're talking about.
Now, you mentioned in the book, but only very briefly, that you were in the Hurtgen Forest, which was just an awful meat grinder, but you didn't really talk about it too much.
Well, I didn't spend all that time in it.
Okay.
By the time I got up there, I spent time. I mean, I was there, but all I heard was the mayhem and the killing and the destruction that was going on there. We lost a lot of the buddies in my outfit would tell you about all these buddies that got killed up there in
Yeah.
Hurtgen Forest.
Yeah, yeah,
Those Germans had that thing well defended, and we couldn't seem to break through. We
Yeah.
eventually had to go surround them or something.
yeah. Well, I mean, there's been a huge controversy about it, even at the time. So why are we going through this forest? Why don't we just go around it? What's the point of this?
I don't know who was that general of ours at that time, you know?
Who was in charge of that particular operation? I know the 28th, they call themselves the Bloody Bucket because of that. The 28th Infantry Division just got.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, so you don't have any specific stories about the Hurtgen
I
Forest?
do not have, except that I know by the time I got up, they were still, telling about how tough it was
Right.
and how many casualties we had. And I'd say I was only up there maybe a week, and we moved another part of the sector.
Lucky you. I mean,
Yeah,
So then you talk about Pingsheim, where there's lots of German civilians mixed with soldiers, and it was all confusing. And then you had a really interesting incident where you and I guess your squad or maybe your platoon are walking across a minefield, but it's anti-tank mines and not anti-personnel. And so obviously, you weren't heavy enough to set them off. When did you realize that you were walking through a minefield?
Well, I think it was one of our lead scouts somehow recognized that and passed the word down, and hell, all at once we all, nobody knew what to do, but everybody was laid down on the ground. Well, I don't know. He could have been laying down on the ground. But as far as any loss of casualties there, it seemed miraculous how we walked through that without somebody getting killed. I don't know. It's a miracle. And there may be some, all at once you can be with this guy and hell, he's gone. Where is he? He's laying dead back there.
Yeah.
There could have been some of that I didn't witness.
Right. Yeah. Huh. Now tell me about mail call. That must have been a good time for everybody,
yeah,
assuming
yeah.
you got mail, right?
Yeah, well, usually you didn't get mail till after you'd been up there for 2 or 3 weeks. And mail accumulated.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's wanted mail. And when you got mail, it wasn't on the front line as after you pulled back.
Mm-hmm.
And hell, I remember it seemed like I all got more mail than anybody else up there. I got a lot of mail from friends and neighbors and girlfriends and parents and all that. And that was always, and some poor guys didn't get any.
Mm-hmm. So were you good about writing yourself or not?
Well, I couldn't write myself every day. You just couldn't do it.
Right.
But I know my mom, I don't know what she wrote every day, but I think maybe she did.
Hmm.
She had 3 boys, and I think she wrote each one of them.
Yeah.
For a long time, anyway.
Now you
But
got, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I couldn't keep that. They kept all my letters, but I couldn't write. I couldn't,
Oh, sure, how are you gonna carry all that?
yeah.
Now you got an interesting present that your dad made for you in one of the mail things. Can you
Oh,
tell us
yeah.
about that?
Well, my dad heard some stories from Uncle Bert about these hand-to-hand fighting. And he was worried, I guess, about his son possibly. Because I was in the infantry and Uncle Bert was in the infantry. But anyway, in the mail here one day, here come this something in the package. It was, about that long. With a big blade on the end of it. And it was an aluminum knife. He had that May, I later found out. They're at the Ocean Brothers at White City, which is a kind of a farm shop. And these Ocean Brothers were pretty good. They invented several things that some of them become national interest, demand. But anyway, they had somehow made a form and used aluminum. I guess they made it hot and poured through this model and made this. I didn't realize this till after the war, because I didn't say anything to anybody or tell them I received it. But anyway, I wore that on my belt and my scabbard. And we went on patrol one night at, I don't know what town it was. There's 19 of us on this patrol. And we were given orders to search it out, rescue, capture and rescue or something. And we went in there at night, in the middle of the night. And anyway, long story short, there's more to this story, but you were asking about the knife.
Mm-hmm.
We were on our bellies crawling, and apparently, after I got back, after we were on that patrol, I didn't have that knife. I had the scabbard, but I didn't have the knife.
Mm. Yeah, so you
And it's
lost
still laying over there
somewhere. Yeah. What was very clever of those guys, or your dad, whoever had the idea, of making it out of aluminum, because of course weight is always an issue, and so they obviously thought that through. Say, okay, let's get him a knife, useful, but lightweight.
Yeah.
Not a heavy steel. You know what I mean? So that you didn't mention it was aluminum, so that's very interesting. So someone gave it a lot of thought.
Well, I didn't ever ask my dad about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall that I did anyway. But yeah, afterwards they were skilled boys. Those Ocean Brothers were really skillful. They'd sharpen your plowshares and make their aluminum knives and a whole bunch of other stuff for the war effort, whatever was needed, and everybody was cooperating in the war effort. There
Yeah.
wasn't any laggards or somebody said, "This guy's crazy. We got to get rid of him." Or,
Yeah.
my God, now we don't. I don't know whether we could fight a war with the guys we have now or not.
Let's hope we don't have to find out.
We're in it clear up to our necks.
No. Let's see. Okay, at one point you were almost run over by one of our own tanks. Can you tell us about that?
Well, one of my buddies was run over that.
Oh, Regabo?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chicago.
Yeah.
And well, with them, we were out. Our leaders got us into this pickle. Open territory, and hell, we were just supposed to rush the position, and we were, but we were getting picked off. Good Lord. I don't remember our lieutenant, but he screwed us up there good. And just, we created problems. A lot of people died as a result of this poor judgment.
So was this one of those 90-day wonders?
Yeah, yeah. And anyway, we lost a lot of guys. And they finally gave us orders to stop forward movement. And we did, and then we were laying out this damn field. You didn't know where these snipers were. God, they were just picking us
So you
off.
were pinned down by snipers?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. Jesus, I mean. Well, anyway, it got toward the dark, I guess it was. And they sent a tank up there to get us out of there. And I was in a kind of a crevice, so
Well, did you have that white thing on? at
no,
the-
no,
Okay.
not after that. That didn't last very long. I mean, they didn't tell us when to get rid of it or take it off, or they didn't tell us to keep it on. But anyway, it was for our own good, you know.
Mhm.
It helps you become unsightly, you know, pretty much when the snow's blowing. But anyway, we got behind this tank, and hell, the damn bullets were blowing. They were shooting at us. Bullets were all over. Anyway, the tank started backing up to get us the hell out of there. And there were 7 or 8 of us behind that tank. And Rabago, I didn't know him very well, but I knew he was in our platoon. And he got hit down, and he went down, and that tank just went off. He was grabbing around to try to get out from under, but couldn't do it. You know. Anyway, pretty sad.
Is that the same tank that almost rolled over you then, too?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
the same one.
And of course, those tankers never knew.
They didn't know what was going on. They knew we were back there, and they were trying to protect us and back out of there.
Yeah.
But that's all. Yeah, they didn't know what was going on.
It's probably a good idea not to tell them what happened. I mean, why make them feel any worse than,
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I remember in that particular incident, you guys were then sent out the next day to try to recover the dead and wounded. Can you, with the
Yeah,
Graves
that-
Registration Unit, can you tell us about that? What was that like for you?
Well, I don't remember for sure whether that was. It was at night when we went out there. I don't know whether it was the next day or that night. I think maybe after we counted casualties and these people were missing, it probably was the next night.
Mhm.
We went out there in October at night with the Graves Registration guys and picked these guys up. We had, kind of carriers, each one of them. And I don't know how many. I don't know how many of us. We got. I mean, it took, 2 people to get one guy out of there.
Yeah.
And so we went under cover of darkness. We went back up there and found, I don't know how many of them. I know we found our guy, put him on the stretcher.
Brigabo?
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was Rabago that we found.
Mm-hmm.
But
He must have
yeah,
been.
dang, and they just treat those wounded. I mean, these guys were dead, of course. And the guy who was on the front of the carrier was amazing. Just, I'll tell you, when you turn and dump him, just dumped him and landed him in the trailer. And that's pretty sad. It's like, anyway. He was used to that. Those guys,
Yeah. Yeah, I've interviewed 2 guys who were in a Graves Registration Company.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was interesting when I was interviewing him. I said, "Well, how?" Because if you've been to the U.S. military cemeteries overseas, you know they got the guy's name, his unit, and the date that he was killed, and it's very precise. It'll say blah blah, the 7th of April, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I asked him once. I said, "Well, how can you be sure of those dates, especially say a place like the bulge where the dead are freezing and they're frozen, right? They're like ice cubes. And how can you know if they died on the 17th of December or the 27th of December? You know, there's no decay to tell you. They're all frozen. So how would you determine that? You know what their answer was? Says it was a guess. We would guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it had to be.
Yeah.
There's no other way, because
Yeah.
I did. I would say at least half or 3/4 of the time I had no idea what date this was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think about every other soldier. We didn't keep track of that.
Yeah.
I mean, we had, watches for guard duty, but otherwise, and of course, I captured one German that had these luminous dial. I didn't know.
Oh yeah, I remember
about
that.
a luminous dial.
Yeah, tell me about that. So that must have been a surprise.
Well, let's see, we captured this SS guy in this little town. He was, I'm sure, he was the commander.
Oh, is that the
Well,
Hitler Youth Unit?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's the one where Queen was killed. They really had slave laborers built 3 rows of trenches, foxholes, and connected them through trenches so they could run.
Yeah.
And these, anyway, after the when the battle was almost over, Rogers and I were going up in the perimeter of the town. There was some farmsteads out there, and we come to this farm with a board fence all around. Our board fence is over your head, I guess. And looked pretty suspicious to us, to me anyway. And there's a gate right there. And I told Rogers to protect me, I'm going to open this gate. And he did. And this guy in a black uniform, SS commander with a fancy hat, he said, "Comrades, I've been waiting on you, waiting for you." And of course, I said, "Come to see here, but Andy Ho," and he did. Well, he was loaded with a watch, a pistol.
Is that the same watch?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I wore it for a long time, though. I give my stuff to my kids, and somebody has. But anyway, I got a pistol, a watch.
You mention binoculars?
I didn't get them from him.
Oh, okay.
No.
You had a compass, I think, and
Yes.
yeah.
There were several things. But he was a consummate Nazi soldier. And I'm just sure we just honored this Hitler Youth group. They were just, I think, they thought they weren't gonna let us get into town. And one of them, we captured one out the edge of town, and that's what he told. He was wounded, so we captured him. He had blood all over him, and we were interrogating him. It wasn't me, but we had a guy there interrogating him. He was angry. He was an angry kid. He was going to fight for Hitler to the death if he hadn't got wounded. The rest of them dead. A few of them surrendered. God, I don't know how many we killed there. The guy at the head of the whole thing was the last one we captured, and he did not fight to the death. If he had it, I wouldn't be here talking to you.
All right. So now I don't know whether to ask you here because it's jumping ahead or talk about that one battle where you're in the railroad station and you meet the Belgian people and all that, which is fascinating. And I don't want to forget to ask you about it. But there was a point in the book, I think it was towards the end, where you're sort of listing how many pistols and others,
yeah.
and you started just giving this stuff away to your buddies who
Yeah.
didn't have it.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, because I had interviewed a lot of guys who obviously got souvenirs, during the war, especially if they were Marines in the Pacific or infantry, in Europe. Now, where was that I wrote that? But usually what they would tell me is that, well, I kept the souvenirs to a minimum because they got too much to carry around after a while. We just toss it. But my God, you you had what, like 13 pistols, or I don't know how. So you carried all that stuff around.
Well, at that time, the war was winding down,
Right.
and I was starting to put those in my pack instead of just throwing them down the ground.
Right. Right.
And because some of my buddies right there on the front line didn't have any souvenirs. They didn't capture anybody there.
Right. Yeah.
And anyway,
Trying to see where you said that. Yeah, it says in your book, you said by the end of the war, this is what you wrote. It's amazing. I was 13 pistols,
Yeah.
12 watches, binoculars, compasses, flags, the SS ring, and so on. But you also had something really interesting at some point. You and another guy, American guy, maybe an artillery observer or something, you had the German binoculars. And he had an American pair, and you guys were looking at the same thing. Do you remember that story?
yes, I did.
Can you tell me about that?
Well, we were in a pre-battle position, and on our tank with me and others was this auxiliary observer. It's the only time I've met any of them, I guess, maybe once other time. But we were in some kind of forest. It wasn't the Ardennes or the Hurricane, but anyway. He was on our tank, and I didn't even know him. But I could tell he was observing what was going on. I could see some of what was observing too, but I didn't have my binoculars at that. I had them, but I hadn't used them. But anyway, we could see these phosphor grenades going on. That's what they did, so they could have a starting point to zero in with artillery. But anyway, he was reeling his back. I wasn't talking to him. He was tending to business, But later, I got my binoculars out. He was telling me all about it. I could hear him giving me sort of observation instructions. And he was pointing out things. So I just got my binoculars out and got them up there.
You captured German binoculars.
They captured German binoculars. They were really good binoculars. But anyway, pretty soon I was telling him where these grenades are landing, and he said, "Well, where is it? I don't know." He had American binoculars.
So their MGs, some of their MGs were better. They had the jet. The binoculars were better. So, and of course, you always hear the story about how much better the German tanks were, but of course, they couldn't build them in the numbers they needed. And everything I've always read about, especially about the Tigers and so on, is they were high maintenance. They were difficult to maintain. They were always breaking down.
Ours were too.
But we made more, and the Soviets
Yeah.
made even more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a numbers game, really, at the
Sure
end.
was.
Yeah.
Our industrial production was much better.
Sure. It was definitely a numbers game. Anyway, so you gave all those souvenirs away, or not all of them, but some of them.
Well, yeah, there were some of these guys. They knew how many pistols I had. After the war was over, they knew Jim Sharp had all these pistols. He captured all the.
He's your go-to guy.
And they would come to me, and some of them had been wounded in combat and went to the hospital, and now they were coming back and said, "Damn, I didn't have any pistol. I didn't get any pistols." And they didn't say, "Where did they place to store them?"
Yeah.
But anyway, I I was lucky to be alive, and I gave practically all of those away.
Oh, okay.
There were the Lugers and all, good. Plus, today would be worth a lot of money.
Sure.
But it wasn't worth a damn then. I was alive, and that was
Right.
amazing.
So you had mainly the P-38s and the Lugers. Now, did you save the SS ring?
I did, and my kids got it, and yeah, my kids,
Okay.
when they were about 8 or 10, I had all this stuff in the box down in the basement, and the kids and the neighbor kids found all that.
Yeah.
I didn't think anything about it. Everybody's honest, you know,
Yeah.
but that ring disappeared.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Damn, I hated that. That
Yeah.
ring, that SS ring disappeared.
Yeah. Well.
I don't know what that was.
Now, I'm very curious because I saw, I think in a video that somebody produced, I remember distinctively seeing at least a portion of your diary, which you did save, right? And is
Yeah.
it still around somewhere?
Yes,
Okay.
my son has it.
Okay. And then, and I hope that someone's made a copy of it. I mean, one of the things when I
Well-
talk to vets is, I always urge them, please scan this stuff, because if something happens to the original, that would just be terrible.
This diary is readable, but barely in
Right.
some spots.
Yeah.
I don't remember how much that diary I quoted in there. Probably about most of it, I would guess.
Yeah. What I'm saying is a document itself, being history, a history guy,
Yeah.
please, please have him take it to, like again, Kinko's or FedEx or something, and scan it at high resolution, because if something happens to it, I mean, the paper was usually during the war not very good, as you know, it's falling apart, it's got a lot of sulfur in it. But this way, short of giving it to a museum where they can actually, take care of it, that way there's a copy for the future. It's really
Yeah,
important.
it's a document. There's no other.
Yeah.
There is no.
So you really, and what about, and what I'm really interested in a lot too, but I didn't get a copy of your other book obviously, was I know that you got autographs of some of those guys at Nuremberg.
Yeah.
And you still have that somewhere.
That's in
hopefully.
a different book.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't get to read that book.
Yeah.
But I knew you've
Yeah.
done it.
Oh, yeah.
And so do you have that notebook or whatever still yourself?
One of my kids do.
Okay, again,
Yeah. And there's some of that which is not very legible. So I don't know. I guess they should. If I'm not trying to tell them what to do.
no, but just say, I don't know what your relationship is, but those documents are so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
are.
they're just so important. And we really need, I'm talking about the general,
Yeah.
we need to make sure that there's at least a copy, right, somewhere. And
Yeah.
it wouldn't take that much, go, like I said, get these things scanned at high resolution, and that way you can, again, make multiple copies.
Yeah.
So if you have, multiple kids, and only one has the diary, somebody else may want it, or if only one has the notebook.
Yeah.
So if you make the scans, you see that way, everybody's not as happy as if they had the original, but,
Well,
they got the
yeah.
next best thing. And,
Yeah, that's right.
and then something like the Eisenhower Foundation, I don't know if they have copies, but I'm sure that they want copies of that too.
Yeah, I've spoken over there
Yeah.
quite a few times, but I didn't offer them any of them, because I wanted to give them to my kids
Sure.
first. And
Sure.
I've got 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. and-
So I'm sure that, each one would like to have at least a copy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then that way, everybody's as happy as they're gonna be. You could have a copy, and then, Eisenhower could have a copy. I mean, it's, I don't wanna keep bugging you about it, but you
Well,
understand.
I understand
Yeah.
now what you're saying,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I've given that stuff away, and I didn't put any conditions on it.
right. But I think if they're, you know, I don't know how old, I mean, your kids are obviously probably my age, I'm 73. I don't know about your grandkids, but I'm sure they'd understand historically how important it is.
I think most of them would.
Yeah, and that to get it scanned is obviously, you
Yeah.
know, is pretty important. Anyway, enough, I don't want to keep bugging you about that. But you had a very interesting, well, you had all kinds of interesting things happen to you, but I think the one that sticks in my mind a lot is that one battle, I don't know if it's at Dessau or somewhere else, where you and Rogers, I guess, are running around. You eventually, I guess, get wounded, and then these two Belgian DPs show up.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that? And that was really...
That was in Dessau.
Okay, that was really an interesting story, because you go, where the hell did these people come from? And you couldn't trust them because you didn't know who they were initially. So can you tell us that story?
I think that was Dessau, and I think Dessau was on, I haven't reconstructed this battle. Read, some guy says, you are. Guys read that book 3 times. They said, how many times you have said that? I said, once. He said, well, you ought to read it again.
Yeah.
And I picked one of them up, and I said, did I write this? Did I write it? And this is what I was doing. But anyway, what was the question?
So the question is, yeah, if you can tell us, because you talked quite a lot about this. You had a guy, because you and Rogers are running around, I guess. At some point, you're wounded. The DP show up to help, and then a third American guy shows up whose name you never learned, who is basically cut in half by a machine gun, and the DP's help.
He died and I lived, the way it was. He died and I lived.
So can you go through that sequence of events?
Well, this was, we were trying to get to the Elbe and the Berlin, so things were moving pretty fast. And I remember the night before this happened, before this happened, I don't know what the name of the town. The thing I remember about it was we set mines in the road.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And
Yeah.
it just blew the hell out of this truckload of German soldiers traversing that road. Then the next night we went on the attack to Dessau, and there's an airport there. And it was dark. We were attacking in the dark, and this was an airport, and they had a lot of camouflage there. So we got mixed up in that stuff and tangled up, and it delayed us quite a bit. But anyway, let's see. What did I say about that?
Well, I know I went back a page. There was a battle at a place called Alton before Dessau, and that's where your captain
Yeah.
Miller was killed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there a lot of things happened there.
Now, you tell me about Miller. You really respected him, right? You thought highly of him.
He'd been up there a long time, been looted or wounded, I don't know how many different times. And he had been on the front line or in battle so much. And he had a girlfriend in England. He'd come over. He was over in there before the D-Day, I guess. But anyway, he went to see his girlfriend over there in London or wherever she was. I'm not sure what I'm telling you, but the guys around me that knew him said he married her while he was over there, and he come back the next day and he got killed there in Dessau. Or all, whichever one.
Yeah.
And
Sort of in an ambush, right? I mean, he was being...
Yeah. Yeah, they got in behind our lines somewhere. And sometimes they're just mixed up. They don't know what's going on either. Who
Yeah.
controls what piece of territory and
Right.
whatever. But
Yeah.
anyway, they had got in behind our lines and the whole squad, I guess maybe it was a platoon he was leading, walked into it. They killed them all, including him. And then tit for tat, not me, but another part of our company, the Germans had, I guess we got them surrounded, and here they come up the road. And we captured them. Once they found out how we captured Miller, they killed them all right in the road. I saw the bodies later. I wasn't in on that part of it, but I know what happened, and the evidence is right there.
And there, I'm sort of getting off Dessau for a second, but it reminded me of another story where you said you had a town pretty much surrounded. I don't remember which one it was. I could go back through here, but that you guys had it surrounded, and you told the Germans, "Hey, we're offering terms." And Miller drove in with a white flag on a Jeep, and I guess you guys. And can you tell us about that? Do you remember that story?
Yeah, that. I'm not sure. I remember.
I can. While you're thinking, I can look up the town if you want. Oh, jeez. It's amazing how you can't find these things when you're looking for. You know how that is. It's like.
I remember the town. I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. I guess it's not really important. Oh, no, that's not it. Anyway, I guess it's not, the name of the town's not that important, but do you remember the sequence of events?
Yeah. We had taken this town or village ahead of that, and we were setting up perimeter defensive positions, foxholes. And here come, I don't know whether it was a family or civilians, 6 or 7. And we stopped them. I mean, you know what's going on. And somebody's interrogated us somewhere and learned that they said that there was Germans down there and they're not going to surrender to anybody. They're going to fight. So, I mean, they wouldn't have a chance. We'd just all lost a lot of people. But anyway, this word got to our company commander.
Miller,
and
right.
when it got there, part of it said, you know, when you're passing information from 2 or 3 people, you know, especially when your language is a problem, some of them said, one of these people, I guess, of the 6 or 7, that he thought they would surrender if we would go there and talk to them. So our battalion commander says, we're going to send a patrol down there. And we're just going in with white flags waving. And we're all riding jeeps. And we did. And we got down there. I was kind of surprised we got clear down to the front lines. There was a patrol, or their outpost, without getting blown up with mines in the road. But we didn't. So we got down there, and I was in the 3rd or 4th Jeep, I think. And I was pretty alert to what the hell's going on, because you don't know what's going to happen here next. But anyway, here people popped up out of foxholes along the road. stop, stop. They made us all get out. They didn't know what the hell was going on. And our company commander, or battalion commander, talked to these guys, and they had to go to their officers, you know. And in the meantime, you're going to have to relieve yourself of your rifle and get down in the ditch right here. And they did. But they went down there, and the company commander, they blindfolded him, and took him down to that town, whatever it was. And you could see, the civilians could see, you know, we were there, these civilians. And first thing I know, here these whole bunch of kids were playing down there, I mean, 200 yards away from us, I guess. And they never did come up there, but they were kind of waving around at us like we're friends here. Well, when they come back, they took the blindfold off Colonel Ender, I guess it was. And he said the orders for us to get the hell out of it in our Jeep and get the hell out of here just as soon as you can. And that's what we did.
Okay.
Well, we captured it.
Yeah.
At least 2 days.
So
later.
that period when you're, I think you described, you're laying down, you don't have your rifle, the Germans are all around. I mean, that must have been a little bit disconcerting.
Yeah,
Is that the
they
word?
wanted to capture us,
Right.
but they were respecting us for coming and asking, I guess, for surrender.
Right.
And we took down the white flags and scattered the turned tail and got
Right. Yeah.
out of there. But anyway, that could have been a disaster, man. Good Lord.
Right.
They'd had just one crazy guy in the German platoon there, and
Yeah.
he hated this, which they all did. We could have all been wiped out.
Yeah.
Nobody know what the hell went on.
Would you say that was one of your? I mean, you had so many close calls and so many, you know, I'm sure, incredibly frightening things that happened to you. And it's probably hard to say which was the worst, right? It depends on what time of day you're thinking about it, right? But how does that one rank in?
Well, in retrospect, it was not one of the most, you know, dangerous, because they kind of respected us and we respected
Okay,
them.
the white flag and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. But there must have been that gnawing thought in the back of your mind, what if they don't?
Well, especially when you're laying in the ditch and your rifle's over here.
Yeah, right.